It says Saturday Night Live is slammed for having Dave Chappelle as the host. It's a slap in the face, they say.
Slap in the face to whom?
Yeah, that's a good question. Who do you think it is?
Who watches an SNL anymore? Firstly,
I don't know.
Do you?
No, I haven't watched it in years.
I
don't even know. I don't even know who the SNL cast is anymore.
Well, they actually just recently introduced some new cast members because Pete Davidson left. A couple of other spots, I suppose, were open. So they hired 3-4 new cast members.
Yeah.
One of whom identifies as non-binary and uses they them pronouns. Named Molly Kearney. And as they've announced Dave Chappelle as this week's host, a lot of tweets are rolling in saying, I wonder how Molly Kearney feels about this. I'm so disappointed and I feel for her because, or they, because you're not standing in solidarity with gender non-conforming comedians.
But they're not the same thing. So
and there is also another person on the SNL team who is just a writer who identifies as non-binary, I think named Celeste Yim.
Yeah.
And they're mentioning that one too. So that's sparking some more outrage than it otherwise would have. But people are saying that Molly Kearney doesn't have the power to call out this behavior because she's new. She's a new hire, so she has an imbalance of power over her.
I think they end up having them do a skit together.
I wonder.
Probably to start the show. But it also doesn't matter.
Would she do that, though?
It's not the same thing.
Is she identity obsessed enough that she genuinely has a problem with this?
I don't. If
I'm worried that
if they don't work together at all, that will be a glaring thing that people will point out.
I think even when people may not personally have a problem with it, they might be aware that a community of people who would be really mad if they didn't act like they had a problem with it or, treated them just like any other host or guest.
Yeah.
It would be like outrage from that community against them because people will bully even trans people who speak up for Dave Chappelle. That's happened.
Yep.
That's happened with the other comedian.
Yep. So we've got some tweets here from people. It's a Sebastian M. Barr, PhD.
Of course, PhD on Twitter has a problem with this because he knows so much about comedy and how to make people laugh.
He says, I hope cast members will boycott this. And then it goes down farther. Julia says, wonder how SNL's first non-binary cast member this season must feel about them platforming Dave Chappelle next week. There's that word again.
Platforming.
There's that word again, platforming. Disappointing but not surprising feeling for Molly Kearney right now. Is it the same thing? It's non-binary is not the same thing as transgender. So why does it matter?
I think that they actually define transgender as an umbrella term that also includes non-binary people.
That doesn't...
Which people even within that community all disagree on.
And even that is under the umbrella term of LGBTQ.
Yes.
So basically you do have to fall in lockstep with the narrative, which is you have to deplatform Dave Chappelle and cut off all ties with him.
The number one problem that I see these days is a lack of good PR for movements like this. And the number one way you could get back public interest and public support would be by being able to laugh at yourself once in a while.
Yep.
And the inability to be the butt of the joke. If everybody else has to be the butt of the joke, you have to also allow yourself to be the butt of the joke. No, it is not violence. No, it is not causing you harm. Cry me a river.
Well,
you have to allow yourself to be vulnerable to public scrutiny and jokes if you want to feel like you're part of the in-group.
When I played the skit that they used to introduce those new cast members, including Molly Kearney, I did see that they addressed the fact that she identifies as non-binary and her preferred pronouns and made a joke about it. Yeah. Not really.
The joke was the
expense.
Safest. No, the joke was the safest joke.
It was a very sanitized one. So it was a joke about them hiring her to assassinate Vladimir Putin when she just thought that she was getting hired as a comedian. So then she makes a joke about how one of them misgendered her in this plot to assassinate Vladimir Putin, and then she was like, I didn't think it was the time to have the pronoun talk.
Misgendering jokes are the lamest of all of that humor. It's not funny.
It was not. It wasn't really woke, but it was just kind of a cringy way to introduce Molly Kearney. And really, what I'm worried about is them using Dave Chappelle's appearance as a way to roast him and virtue signal about how they're so much better than him. They're going to like use the skits to make jokes at his expense about how out of touch he is.
Yeah.
Rather than just letting him take the lead because he's funnier than all of them combined.
I was just going to say good luck because he's funnier than all of them.
Yeah.
Like you just said. And like, he's also a legend.
Yep.
He makes fun of everybody.
There's this quote from someone says, it's from IBF DHVB. It says, I am a trans man and I don't give an F about Dave Chappelle, but as a workplace, figure out where you stand. You can't make a huge point of hiring a non-binary persona and then have them see a transphobic dude as the host. Like what? Like, that's not true at all. You can do both. You can first of all, he's not transphobic. Right. He's just a guy who tells jokes and jokes about everyone.
Well, I think what they also just the recognizing biology stuff is now considered transphobic, which totally diminishes even the meaning of the word transphobic.
Yep. The issue is irrelevant because you should be able to do comedy with people that you disagree with about a myriad of issues, not just this one, not just gender ideology.
Yep.
And I think people are actually reading a lot more into Molly Kearney's thoughts on this than is actually warranted, seeing that she has said nothing on the topic so far.
I'm sure by design.
Yeah, and like one tweet said, Molly Kearney is a first-year player in an extremely tenuous position. What choice do they even have? Thinking about Molly Kearney having to be in sketches with Dave Chappelle, LMAO. Like, as if this person is being forced into this position when I'm sure it was a dream come true to get this job in the first place.
It also means that even Molly Kearney has no recourse other than to follow whatever they believe is true. She's not even as a member of the community isn't allowed to have her own opinion because they're going to pretend like her having to work with Dave Chappelle would be forced upon her rather than her wanting to work with him. And then if she wants to work with him, she's actively harming her own community, which is what they'll say.
Here's another tweet from someone who's butthurt that said, who next? Kanye? I'd like an hour of this show to be the cast surrounding Molly Kearney in solidarity and calling out, educating Dave about his total ignorance.
About
Tell
educating.
me why the hell an hour of SNL would consist of them giving Dave Chappelle sensitivity training.
To be fair, Saturday Night Live hasn't really been funny in 2 decades anyway, so it's right in line.
No, but have they really gone full struggle session yet?
Yes. So Lauren says, "Why am I surprised that they're having Dave Chappelle host when they had Trump host a month before his election, and they let Jost and Che host Update for the last 9 years. I don't know who that is. I haven't watched Saturday Night Live in years. Clearly, they don't care what their loyal audience wants at all. What does their loyal audience want?
That slowly but steadily dwindling audience.
Yes. Well, a lot of people were saying that it might be the last year.
I hope so. They're facing the consequences of your actions, and not in the way that they think. I mean, I was just reminded of Pat, the character that Julia Sweeney came up with back in the 90s, where they joked about how uncomfortable it made the other characters that Pat was like gender nonconforming, androgynous looking. They were constantly saying, like, asking these leading questions of Pat, trying to gauge like whether Pat was a man or a woman. And it was like a genuinely funny skit because it pointed out, it like took people off guard and pointed out how they're awkward and their vulnerability in that situation, because everyone can relate to like just being in an awkward social setting. And it also, like, a new perspective I thought of when Julia Sweeney was on her apology tour for making this character is that they were actually cracking jokes at the expense of the people around Pat who were so uncomfortable.
See, but that wouldn't, like I said,
not Pat.
That would not be allowed today because you're like, that leaves it open to interpretation. If they feel like they've had to explain to you what that is, they don't even like the idea that you might be laughing at Pat. They need to hammer.
You're not
it home
allowed
to
to
you.
misinterpret their joke, which is a violation of your conscience.
There was an episode of Bones where they had a cop and a doctor in from Japan, and the doctor practices a form of androgyny that makes the point of it that you don't know whether it's a man or a woman. And the whole episode is spent with the other doctors trying to figure out whether it was a guy or a girl, and that would not fly
but it's
today.
all about how the people surrounding this person are way more fixated on the question than the person is.
And then the problem with that episode was they actually they figure it out in the end, and it would have been funnier if they just never like basically they have like the Angela character go up and like hug them like an uncomfortably tight amount, and she goes, "It wiggled. It's a guy." So like that, you wouldn't be able to do that now. That would not be allowed to be done now because we're so steeped in gender ideology in this country. I don't think that people would be allowed to take jokes at that expense. And the funny thing is, the person who played the character was a girl. So they announced it as a guy, but the actress that played that role was a girl.
And that would just never happen today.
No, I don't think they would. I don't think they'd allow that much nuance.
Do you think that SNL hired Molly Kearney for representation purposes or because they thought this is the best fit person for the job?
Well, I got a question to follow that up. Did either of you ever hear of Molly Kearney before?
No. But when I looked her name up, I saw like just normal like Comedy Central stand-up bits that were bland at best. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Maybe just people aren't funny anymore, so she would be no exception.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if this is going to be framed as a win for representation, as far as like representing gender nonconforming people, or like if you call them genderqueer or transgender or non-binary, whatever label, let's cut the BS. This person is a masculine presenting biological woman who is basically just a lesbian. Okay. And Kate McKinnon, one of the biggest stars of SNL, is a lesbian. They've had other lesbians on the show as well. It's not a new thing for lesbians to be represented in SNL. So you didn't need to cross this other representation Rubicon which does not exist. Like it truly doesn't exist.
Also, do you think that the idea of platforming is also one of these great unprovables? So this one says, this S is why SNL giving Dave Chappelle a platform is dangerous and why none of us, especially our allies whose voices aren't as drowned out as ours are, should shut up about it. A war is being waged on trans people and trans kids every single day, and he helps it grow. First of all, you can't prove that. You can't prove that your voice is more drawn out than anyone else's. That's not a thing. Like there's unless you can show me where an algorithm is somehow not elevating you, because in my opinion, your voices are elevated, not drown out most of the time. Mm-hmm.
It's obvious that the dynamic is SNL needs Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle does not need SNL. Yeah.
Like Dave Chappelle is probably the only person who could actually get me to watch an episode of SNL at this point.
This is not a relationship of equals.
Nope.
In fact, Dave Chappelle...
He's doing them a favor.
Yeah, right. Dave Chappelle is platforming SNL more than SNL is platforming Dave Chappelle.
We're like, I don't think we don't ever talk about SNL unless it involves something like this. This is another one. So it says, why is SNL so effing enamored with Dave Chappelle, of all people, a man who so smugly loves to demean the trans community at every opportunity? Enough already. Look,
they're enamored with him because they got him as a host
he smugly makes fun of all communities. That's the point. You don't get to just choose yours and then pretend like he's not making fun of the other ones. Now, I will say that him, like there is danger of going too far into it where you become known as that guy. But I think that it doesn't matter anyways, because they're going to make that decision for him. He could make his next special could not address it at all, and he would still get that label. It wouldn't matter. The same thing goes true for J.K. Rowling, that you're going to get that label no matter what now. So leaning into it seems to be, and when you push back on someone, they're going to push back on you twice as hard. So it kind of becomes a like a circular firing, like in a way, like they end up leading each other into oblivion. They get mad. He gets mad that they keep unfairly maligning him. So he fires back at them, and then they go back and forth, and it snowballs.
And it's not just something occurring on the internet. Someone has literally attempted to murder Dave Chappelle on stage for his remarks for his jokes about transgenderism. And yeah, I'll admit, when he is put on the spot to give a serious answer about his beliefs on those things, they are contrary to, the acceptable opinions of the day. But it also is irrelevant to his ability as a comedian and also the audience that he draws to SNL simply by appearing.
Yep. It says, why are we giving this man a platform? Hashtag protect trans kid. I don't see hashtag protect trans kids. I don't see Dave Chappelle out here attacking anyone. And I am sick of the false assumption that having a joke or pushing back on something or making any type of commentary whatsoever is akin to violence, because it's that type of hyperbolic and imprecise language that causes the problems that we live in. It's like it's sloganeering, right? It's like when you look at a slogan on one of these billboard, like on one of these signs that they hold up, and you're like, what does that even mean? Like, what is it that you're saying?
The protect trans kids thing is one of the most like slogan tokenized things I've ever seen. And I know that there are members of the cast who have worn shirts with that phrase on it. And I've seen people posting pictures of them saying, I hope that the cast boycotts this episode, as if they would pass up the opportunity to be in front of an audience much bigger than they usually have. Mm-hmm.
Support, uplift, protect trans voices. It's like, I need more details.
Because by hiring one of them, did they not accomplish enough in that direction?
No. Well, it's never, and as you know, it's never enough.
Well, right. I think it's never enough to a small group of people who are very loud on the internet. But I think your average person doesn't view it this way. And like in my experience, I know there is a small group, I call them the alphabet mafia, who if you act out of line, they will target you with severe bullying, and they will label you all sorts of terrible things that aren't accurate, and they won't let it go. And they do it because they either want you to apologize or they want you to just disappear and not exist.
Apologizing never works anyways.
Well, yeah, some people do that though, but I think it's much better to just like...
Was it like Kyrie Irving apologized?
Own what you say.
Kyrie Irving apologized, and like the very first thing that was written was like not genuine, disingenuous
right, and
apology.
they created a whole list of demands for him. That situation we didn't even talk about on the show, but
no. Bend your knee to the.
But it was really because of the context of everything happening with Kanye that they freaked out to that degree.
Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.